Hello and welcome. It's another Confessions podcast, another collection of terrible tales from our fabulous Radio 2 listeners. This week's collection includes a bonkers bout of bravado, a pushy parent prescription, some cold campervan karma. This is very good. And a fit of fatherly fakery. Anyway, that's the alliteration over. Here come the tales. First one of the week from Johnny. Thank you, Johnny. Names have been changed. Dear Father Simon and the gorgeous Caring Collective.
Oh, yeah.
How about that? Forgiven straight away, because they're very cheap like that. My confession begins in school. I was about 14 years old, and like most 14-year-olds, I would jump at the chance to get a day off, lessons, and all the hard work that came my way. One day we were in a biology lesson, learning about all the different parts of the body, as you do when you're 14. We learnt about their functions and what happens when they go wrong, including symptoms of certain ailments. In this lesson, we were learning about the appendix and the symptoms of appendicitis. Already, my brain was wandering away with thoughts on how I could use this to my advantage, how I could spend a couple of days at home in bed, watching daytime TV and having food and drink brought to me on a tray by my mum, dad and sisters. Even my sisters couldn't complain. I loved the thought of all the attention and sympathy. That same evening, in preparation for the next morning, I casually mentioned that I felt a bit of pain sort of down there where my appendix is, sort of above the right hip. I never mentioned that I knew what an appendix was, but rather bravely washed and went to bed as usual. The next morning I was in full acting mode and made impassioned pleas for help to get up as I was in so much pain. My mum came and looked at me and said that I didn't need to go to school in that state. Yes, absolutely fantastic. Mission accomplished. Mum then said, better get you to the doctors, though, to see what's wrong. The doctor would surely rumble me at this point, and I would be shown up for the fraud that I was. I would be glared at by the GP and shouted at by the receptionist. When we got to see the doctor, she poked and prodded in the appropriate areas, and I obliged with the right whimpering sounds as she hit the spot. The doctor gave me a stern look. Blimey, here we go. She knows. The doc looked at my mum as I looked shamefacedly at the door, and then she called an ambulance. Your son has appendicitis and needs urgent hospital treatment. My mum looked worried, maybe even a little scared as we waited to be taken away. I will never forget the faces of all the other people in the surgery looking on worried as I was stretchered out of the surgery. My plan, though, was still intact, and although it had gone a little further than I thought it would, I knew the hospital would perform various tests and send me on my way with an order just to rest for a few days. Well, things didn't quite go as I thought. The doctor examined me and said it was probably my appendix and that it needed surgery. Now, this was the time to confess, or at least to act as if I was starting to feel a bit better, really.
I'll bet.
But the look on my mum's face made it impossible, and I couldn't bear to upset her, and I couldn't bear for her to suspect that I'd put everybody through all that worry for nothing.
Don't tell me you went through with it.
And so that's why I had surgery to remove my appendix. The next day, 3 of my teachers came to visit, bringing with them a card signed by my whole class. Fruit, chocolate, and a big bottle of Lucozade, though other fizzy drinks wrapped in cellophane might work too. They even mentioned the strange coincidence that my class the previous day were talking about the appendix and this very illness, and maybe teacher was proud because they thought that maybe they'd saved my life because they could recognise my symptoms, yes. I had 2 weeks off school and lots of sympathy, and my parents and sisters ran after me. I felt awful about what I had done. Yeah, right. So I desperately need forgiveness from my parents, especially my mum that worried so much, and from my teachers and classmates that sent me all those nice things. I certainly learnt my lesson, and I never faked a major illness again.
Oh, really? Oh, that's all right.
So the key thing here, young Johnny, is there were so many places at which you could go, oh, no, I'm feeling better. And he ends up with 2 weeks off. Anyway, He got what he wanted, which was the family running after him and an awful lot of attention-seeking.
I just can't believe this story. I mean, talk about going a little bit too far. To have an operation, I mean, presumably under anaesthetic and all that.
Yeah,
Just
I don't
because he
think
didn't
in
want
these
to
days
fess
they
up.
just whip it out while you're sitting there.
Presumably the doctors would have realised once they took his appendix out that he didn't have appendicitis, I would have thought. And
Maybe.
I just think it's outrageous, because how expensive was that operation going to be? All those other more deserving people who really did have problems with their appendix. And also the dangers of crying wolf, of course. No one would ever believe him afterwards. So I think for all those reasons, Johnny, you're not forgiven.
I don't think you're going to really struggle to get any forgiveness here, Johnny. And of course, everybody has made themselves feel a little bit worse just to get off double geography or something like that.
Yeah.
But a cold or feeling sick or something like that, not actually ending up having surgery.
You do have to applaud that, though, don't you? Because I'm sure many of us have tried a bit of cough, a bit of a fever. It'll be one of those 24-hour things. I'll be fine. Probably come next Monday. But to go the full and to keep going, to at no point go. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm feeling much better now. I don't think I need surgery. No, I'm going to go through with the surgery. That's fine. Work shy, Johnny. I applaud you, sir. Well done. I am definitely going to forgive.
No one else is going to forgive.
I am definitely. Well, I'm going to be the only person that forgives you, because it's outstanding that you were prepared to go under the knife so you could watch Countdown and get some Lucasade. Well done, sir.
Tonight's tale comes from Annie, who says, "Dear Father Simon and the Caring Collective, I am cringing whilst writing this, and also seeking sustenance of a stronger kind to provide some Dutch courage. I fear the collective, but mainly I fear the public, my friends and family too. It is a shameful moment in my life which is still a secret."
This is sounding great already. Brilliant.
You don't know, Annie. You don't know.
I don't want to talk it up too much.
You could be all right.
I know you changed names, but my friends will know it's me, so this almost certainly isn't Annie, but let's just call her Annie, shall we?
Yep.
I think we should.
Yep, okay.
So here goes. My children are grown up now and have flown the nest. I'm still a youthful 50-something who enjoys walking, gardening and the theatre. It says, brackets, sorry, Matt.
Not as sorry as Matt.
Nothing against the theatre.
Just a little. It's the drama bit that's going to dominate this story, as it involves a school production that my eldest child, Toby, was in. He was 9 or 10 at the time and really keen to do well in the play, which had been written by the drama teacher, a wonderful old chap called Mr. Moppy. But
What?
I imagine we'll have changed
We
that.
must have changed that.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's probably called Brian Johnson or something.
Anyway,
Anyway,
he's changing.
it was a fabulous show with singing, dancing, pirates, dragons, fairies, fish, and in one memorable scene, live chickens from the local farm. This is a show. This wasn't Mr. Moppy's greatest idea, to be honest, as chickens do what chickens do, and even with the greatest care, parts of the stage became treacherously slippery. They also clucked inappropriately when they should have been silent, making the audience laugh at a place that they should have been shocked due to the tragic stage death of the chief fairy. Anyway, that's the scene set. Toby, I wish I'd been at this play. This sounds surreal.
Absolutely.
Anyway, the scene is set. Toby has been cast as a bandit who worked for the main fish, who was a gangster-type fish. Of course.
Yeah.
It's a very surreal
It
play.
is.
I think we know a few things about Mr. Moppy, haven't we already? Brought up in the 60s, I think. Anyway, so he had to strut the stage as a desperado with a poncho, hat and fake cigar. He looked terrific, did my son, even if I say so myself, which is just as well, as it was up to me to get his costume sorted. There was one other bandit in the play, and his costume was a bit good too, so the pressure was on to see who could have the best-looking bandit in the play. The whole competitive parent thing, let me tell you, didn't start in the 90s. When Toby reported developments to Bandit 2's costume, I had to make adjustments to Bandit 1. He got a medallion, Toby got a bigger one. When Bandit 2 got a gun holster, Toby got 2 gun holsters, even if guns weren't actually allowed in them.
You, Matt, this is just like you.
So now Bandit 2 arrives back from the Easter holidays with a lovely tan, his parents having gone to Florida. Sickening, really, especially as it meant Bandit 2 looked rather more exotic than my Toby, who looked as pale as a Worcester winter and about a flu could make him. Toby wasn't too bothered, but let me tell you, I certainly was. I needed Toby to look exotic as well, and so I'm afraid, and ashamed to say, I persuaded him to try a little of my fake tan.
Oh, yes.
I'd tried it once before and was pleased with the results, so showed Toby the bottle. He was unimpressed, to be honest, but I showed him the results when I painted a patch on my arm, and he gave in. The night before the first of 4 performances, 1 for the school and 3 for the parents, I got the tanning bottle and some cotton wool. I gave Toby a good coating over his face, hands and ankles and kissed him good night. The following morning, I went into Toby's room to wake him up, and my heart stopped. I know it actually was Toby beneath the sheets because his hair was the same and the pyjamas were the same, but the rest of him was orange. Livid, radioactive, luminescently bright orange, the sort of colour that supermarket orange drink has, with extra badness added. He heard me exclaim, and while he might be a good actor, I certainly wasn't, and he realised something was up. "What's up?" he asked. Well, honesty works best in a situation like this. I think I might have used too much tanning lotion, son," I said. He ran to the bathroom, and the howl of anguish I can remember even now. He refused to go to school, and we spent the day rubbing vigorously, with limited success, I'm afraid. He made the play and was stunningly convincing, I have to tell you, as Bandit 1, outdoing Bandit 2 by a factor of at least 10, in my opinion. Hooray! Everyone cheered at the end, even getting as many whoops as the chief fairy. The next day, he agreed to go to school, as he said he would claim it was stage makeup. When it hadn't faded much in a week after the production had finished, he got a few comments about boys wearing makeup, but that was that. He and I had got away with it. It turned out to be Toby's only drama triumph, as he refused to be in any production after that, and I think that might be my fault. No one at his school and none of his friends knew what had happened, but I would like forgiveness, please, from Toby for overdoing the tan and the enthusiasm, and also forgiveness from Bandit 2 for not letting him outshine my Bandit. So I fall at your feet, yours repentantly, Annie, almost certainly changed with the story. I want to see Mr. Moppy's play. If it features singing, dancing pirates, dragons, fairies and fish, and gangsters, that has to be pretty fine. What do you say, Sister Rebecca?
I think that's a great story. It just sums up competitive mums, doesn't it? There's nothing worse than competitive mothers. And their poor children.
He's got a tan. I'm going to give
exactly.
you a tan.
I mean, I
Lie
have to
still.
say, probably Toby had very, very sensitive skin, so she wasn't to know, I suppose, because it didn't do that when she put the tanning lotion on her.
But this would have been a couple of decades ago, and tanning lotions was
maybe you're just not supposed to put it
sophisticated.
onto children's skin, you know, because it must be more sensitive. I think she went a little bit too far there. I don't know. I mean, it's really difficult because
You'd have done the same.
No, I wouldn't have done the same, but I do understand
You're
where
very
she's coming.
competitive,
You know,
you
you do want your child to
Yeah.
look good on stage, don't
Yeah.
you? But I think she went too far. So and also it did damage Toby because he didn't want to be in any other play after that. So I'm not going to forgive you, Annie. Sorry.
Venerable Deadly, what do you think?
Oh, no harm done, really. And as she said, we got away with it. That's the whole point. You got away with it. No long-term damage. 2 or 3 weeks, perhaps. But apart from that, and it was all done for a good reason. That's the point.
Well, the good reason was just making your child look more swarthy than the other child who was.
But the child wouldn't have
being
liked
bandit.
to have lost, would he, in the battle against Bandit
See,
2?
they don't really care, though,
I
do
think
they?
it was the mother that cared more. Anyways, no one more competitive than Matt. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I'd have gone for this. And no question. I didn't realise there was a category for best dressed bandit, but apparently there is. And did no one in the crowd thinks, why has that child come dressed as a bandit and his mates come dressed as a Belisha Beacon dressed as a bandit? I think absolutely well understood. I mean, the fact was that probably fake tan in those days wasn't very good. And it's probably improved now. But I remember fake tan in the old days. It was like just taking out a.
Was it?
What, did you
box of-
wear it then?
Never. No.
Yes, you did.
What was it made of?
Am I likely to have used fake tan?
You're still wearing it?
No.
precisely.
No, I had a bit of experience. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether I'm going down that avenue. So, yes.
All right.
So, I'm going to forgive.
This is from Susan, or someone we're calling Susan anyway. Dear Father Simon and the Ever Caring Collective, I'm writing this to seek your forgiveness for an incident that happened many, many years ago. Picture, if you will, a suburban street in the early 80s. I was 7 at the time, and next door lived my best friend, Christine. Now, Christine's parents were a slight cut above the rest of the families on the street. Her dad, Bernard, worked for a well-known vacuum cleaner and washing machine repair company and had something unknown in those times, a brand new company van. It was black and so attracted a lot of dust, and he would spend every Sunday cleaning said van until it gleamed, much to the amusement of the other families in the street, who, if they were lucky, had a banger, and that's about it. They also had a caravan, these friends of ours, and that summer I was due to go away with them for a whole week, something Christine and I were beyond excited about. About a week before we were due to go away, Christine and I were enjoying a game of elastics. Can I just pause at this point? Does that ring any bells with you? Elastics.
Is it like Cat's Cradle?
I think it is like cat's cradle. It's like French skipping. It's that kind of thing. Anyway, in a lot of the country, it's called elastic. So it's a 2 or 3 people.
Right, no, I'm with you now.
Jumping in, jumping
that's
out.
no,
different.
not cat's cradle.
That's not
no.
Cat's Cradle.
No.
Cat's Cradle is the thing with your hands when you make.
Yeah, well,
different shapes.
it's a version of that with
Okay,
your feet.
all right.
Cat's cradle.
Okay, got it.
So
If you say
hopscotch
so,
with
boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Brilliant.
So you and I could have the thing with the ropes between our legs,
Yeah.
the elastic,
Yeah.
and then Matt would have
I
to
would
jump in and
out.
And
yeah.
if he touches the wire and puts his feet in the wrong place, he's out.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. This is important for the story, I take it.
Not
yeah?
especially, no.
Oh, right. Okay.
We're-
Well done.
We're enjoying a game of elastics. However, I was winning, something that didn't happen very often, says Susan. Christine took umbrage at this and flounced home, taking her elastics with her before I could truly be declared the winner. I was incensed, furious. My moment of glory had been snatched from me, and revenge was on my mind. As I walked away, I looked across at Bernard's van. It was covered in a thick layer of dust, and in a moment of madness, I used my finger to write, "Christine is a pig!" in huge letters on the bonnet. I went home for my tea, chuckling to myself. 10 minutes later, as a loud rap on the door, standing at the door, his moustache quivering with fury, stood Bernard, behind him his wife Anne, and looking smug, my friend Christine. He demanded to speak to my mum and told her how someone had written, "Christine is a pig," on his van bonnet, and I was the prime suspect. I could see Mum was slightly bemused by this. I wasn't too worried until he revealed that whoever had done it had scratched the words into the paintwork with a stone.
Wow.
Now, Simon, I can honestly say that I did not have a stone, and all I could think was that there was grit on the bonnet which had scratched the words into it. Mum's face turned from bemusement to fury, and her first words were, "Well, you can forget about the caravan holiday." Well, I looked at Christine, and Christine looked at me. Despite our argument, neither of us wanted to miss out on our holiday. It was Nikki, I blurted out. Now, Nikki lived across the road and was a couple of years older than us, and she took great delight in tormenting us and generally being mean, and she wore dresses that were usually at least 12 inches too short. "I saw her do it," I cried. "Yes," said Christine, going along with the game. "I bet it was her. She called me a pig this morning." Anyway, we were very convincing, due in part, I think, to my ability to cry on demand, a skill I still have, I may add, says Susan, as most women do.
No! We can't say that. Can't say that.
It's not true.
It's just an observation that
Is
some
it?
have
Oh,
made
really?
over the years. It's not true.
Maybe only in your presence.
Oh, dear. We've gone down an avenue now.
Writing that.
Here we are.
Anne and Bernard left, apologising to Mum and me, and stormed across the road. We watched as fingers were wagged, arms were waved, and tears flowed. Nicky's mum was never ever invited to another of Anne and Bernard's infamous Vickers and Tarts parties again. There's a particular suburban cul-de-sac
We
feel
are.
about
We are
this,
in
isn't it?
sitcom land now.
We didn't see Nicky for the rest of the summer. I got to go... This is good, though. We have an and finally situation here. I got to go in the caravan, but unfortunately, to add insult to injury, I ate 6 hot dogs at the Caravan Club barbecue on the first night, threw up all over the caravan, and had to be driven by Bernard in a van emblazoned with "Christine is a pig," home from Wales at 2:00 in the morning. So I seek forgiveness from Bernard, who had to drive his van around with "Christine is a pig" on the bonnet for a whole year. From Nikki, who was innocent of all charges, and her mum, who was left out of the Vickers and Tarts parties, and all, which is probably a good thing, I'd have thought. And also from you, the collective. Do you think they were swinging parties? I don't know.
No.
No, I don't. Okay. Anyway, it's a good old story, and I'm not quite sure why he had to have "Christine is a pig" on the bonnet for a year. Could they not just have painted it or covered it up in some way?
Exactly, especially if you're so proud of if it's his love and joy. Very odd.
And Christine's his daughter.
I know,
Anyway.
bizarre.
Most peculiar. Anyway, so what do you
I
make
think
of
that was
this?
a pretty nasty thing for them to do. I mean, even if Nikki wasn't very nice to them, I can't believe they both blamed Nikki because they wanted to go on this caravan
It's
holiday.
quick
This camping
thinking.
holiday.
Quick thinking. Very smart.
No, really mean. I think that karma had a lot to do with this. The fact that she vomited the hot dogs and then had to
Oh,
be
yeah,
driven
that's
in
right.
the
Yeah,
in
of
the
course.
van with "Christine is a pig" written on it. So she's already been
That hidden
punished by the
force.
karma police already. But I think no, I think that's too mean actually. And I don't know. There's something weird about this, the fact that it's scratched and she didn't realise it. I think that maybe Christine had after the event gone and done it with a stone or something. I think there's a lot of
But did it herself?
weirdness going on here. Yeah, exactly. So for all those reasons, I'm not forgiving you.
That's a yes. It could have been Christine. 'Cause this is getting a very Columbo
Why
moment.
was so? Christine did it to make her friend get into trouble.
Yes. Yeah. All a little bit too convenient, I think,
Just before
Christine.
you go, Christine.
Yes. What's going on with Bernard, then, with his Vickers and Tarts party, and he's not buffing out that scratch on his side of his... This is something dreadful about his daughter. What on earth are you doing, Bernard? I am not... I am going to forgive.
Did it. Maybe Bernard...
Yeah. Yes, just one more question, Bernard.
Maybe
Is
he
it
doesn't like
you?
his daughter. Maybe Bernard
Yes.
doesn't
Well,
like his daughter.
no, I'm sure he loves his daughter. I am going to forgive, because I don't think it was Susan who did the scratching. It was either Bernard or Christine, or maybe even Nikki in a double bluff. Well done,
Yeah.
Nikki, with the double bluff.
Maybe it actually was Nikki.
Yes, maybe she also fed her the hot
She
dogs.
had- yes.
Yes. Aha! I'm solved!
Completely confused. Here's tonight's confession. Then it comes from Paul. Changed his name. Dear Father Simon and the Caring Collective, I have kept a secret from my family for the many, many years, and I feel it is now time to reveal my misdoing and seek forgiveness from you all. Firstly, I need to take you back some 30 years to when I was a teenager. I was a confident young man who loved every sport and excelled in everything I did. Everything I touched turned to gold, and I firmly believed I would win every race I entered and win every football match I played in. I represented both sports at county level and loved the buzz of victory. I trained every day of the week and was at the peak of fitness with not an ounce of fat on me, and I was proud of what I'd achieved. Childhood disappeared, and in my early 20s I married my childhood sweetheart. We were lucky enough to have two beautiful, healthy children, a boy and a girl. Like most parents, I would boast to my children about my past experiences, the games I'd played in, and the many medals and trophies. Would make their annual appearance just to let them know how wonderful I had been in the past. Let me know if you've taken against this guy.
You've got
at
to
any
stop
point.
now. That's it. He's finished. He's toast.
As the years went by, it started to change. Teenagers can be unforgiving, and the mickey-taking started. But did I care? No. I had boxes of medals to ram down their throats, and I was still the king of the castle. Unfortunately, age was catching up with me. My mind still said I was the best, but my body was having none of it. Anyway, I decided to run a half marathon to raise money for a cancer charity, having recently lost my dad. I asked my son Ollie, an apprentice jockey, to help me with my training in the lead up to the event. He, being the loving son, agreed, and I changed into my non-coordinated running gear, as dads tend to, and waited patiently in the driveway, waiting for him to make an appearance. As we started to jog, it felt special that I was spending time with my son and doing something that I had done with my dad all those years ago. We'd only been going about 100 yards when the mickey-taking started. "Come on, fat boy! Can't you keep up? Is that you breathing heavy, or is a train coming?" That kind of thing. Just a few of the comments coming from my son's ungrateful mouth. He then started to run backwards, which unfortunately for me was faster than I was going forwards. I stopped, a little upset and humiliated, and in a fit of pique, challenged him to a race the following evening to the local pub, which was 3 miles away from our house. He laughed at me, astonished, and suggested that I was unwell and needing water, because there was no chance ever of him beating me over 300 yards, let alone 3 miles. He suggested to make it fair I should have a minute's head start, but the race winner would get £100. I agreed and walked back to my house, wondering what on earth I got myself into. My wife thought I'd gone mad. How was this overweight ex-sportsman, who was still dining off his past experiences, how could he beat a super-fit 18-year-old? I think her words were, "What a waste of £100. I lay in bed realising that I had no chance whatsoever. But was I going to let a cocky 18-year-old have the last laugh? Indeed not. I handed over my £100 share for the winner to my wife for safekeeping. "You won't be seeing that again," my wife informed me. Ollie did the same, and I told him I'd see him at the finish. I smiled. I would have 1 minute's head start and needed to take full advantage of this. As my wife counted down from 3 to 1, I set off on what can only be described as a total sprint. I could hear them laughing in the background saying, "How is he going to keep that pace up for 3 miles?" Well, this is unfortunately where I need your forgiveness. As I rounded the country lane bend, I had a car and a driver waiting for me. I dived into the back seat and slammed the door, knowing that Ollie would only just be setting off for his 3-miler. 2 minutes later, I was standing at the finishing line in the pub car park. Ollie would take about 18 minutes to get there, so I decided not to waste the moment and went to the bar and purchased a pint of lager and a bottle of still water. As I sat sipping my beer, I must admit I couldn't wait for him to come round the corner and see me standing there, but I finished the beer had gone down a treat with all that running and everything, and poured the still water over my head and T-shirt to make it look as though I had, in fact, completed the run. As I leant on the pub wall, looking exhausted, my son charged around the corner, only to see me standing there, and his face, let me tell you, told a story, and he looked astonished that he hadn't caught me, his old dad. Nobody spoke, but I just smirked at him, rang my wife to come and pick us up. I had put this cocky teenager in place once and for all. Worse still, I have to tell you, I took his £100 and I took my wife down to the pub for a slap-up meal on him. Somehow it had really gone a bit too far and I was unable to tell my wife what had actually happened, and the events of that day have never been explained. She thought I was still fit as a fiddle and said she was very proud of me. It is now time to confess to both my son and my wife of my wrongdoing. I seek your forgiveness. From Cocky Paul, who should have realised many years ago that actually he'd gone to seed. But no, he had the challenge of his 18-year-old and he wasn't going to give in. What do you say, Sister Rebecca?
I love that story. That's one of my favourite confessions ever. I'm just amazed that Ollie didn't know. He must have known his dad couldn't have done that so quickly. But I just think it's just, such chutzpah, and to take the £100 from your son, who obviously really need it at the age of 18, to take £100 from your son by cheating. Not a very good role model, I would have said. I'm kind of torn because I do think that was the cheekiest thing, and in a way I want to say well done for that, but I also think for the son it's really bad. It's a low blow. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to forgive you.
What do you say? Let's take novice.
Oh, I was intrigued to see what Matt was going to do, because I'm really, because to start with, Paul, you can't bear, but just it's horrible, isn't he? So arrogant. I won all these medals, something like that. And then it sounded like Ollie was the apprentice jockey, was also as bad as him, because he was taunting him like a fool and all these things. And I thought, oh, clever, and I'm going to forgive him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I just think... Brilliant. And they had the meal, and I thought... Yeah, but that household will be rocking now, but I'm going to forgive him. I just thought...
all those medals, and he mentions it all the time.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. Look at my medals.
What do you think, Brother Matt?
I love this. The fact, going to seed comes to the best of us, doesn't it? But if in that situation where you've gone to seed and you're being challenged by your son who starts running backwards, and what kind of insulting behaviour is that, Nige? And I would say in those situations you are well within your rights to take £100 off your own son by cheating at running. Well done. And having the car standing... I thought it was going to be a bike. I knew he was going to cheat.
Oh, driver.
He had a car and driver. No, I'm not going to drive it. I'm going to have somebody revving the engine ready to go when I arrive. Well done, sir.
Well, there are confessions for this week. Who did you forgive? I suspect a couple, and then the others, absolutely no chance. Anyway, frankly, we need your confession because you've been listening for a while and you haven't contributed. So send us your story to confessions@bbc.co.uk. We can make it as anonymous as you wish. There'll be more next week, and don't forget to download the Weekly Mayo, available now and every Thursday at all good places on your computer. Thanks.
Simon Mayo, 88 to 91.